Hello everyone, this is Ayush this side. I'm coming again with another webinar out of our series, and today we are going to talk about how to build a successful taxi application. Taxi application, as you mentioned, does not only includes any just taxi application, but the results of this webinar can also be applied to any other marketplace like application as well, which involves any e-commerce and any platform that connects consumers and buyers to each other. So moving forward, focusing back to our taxi aggregators, we know that there are four major players in taxi aggregation: Uber, Easy, Lyft, and Hello. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to cover and focus more on the Uber application. So Uber, what it does, or any taxi application, what it does is solves a problem that impacts millions of people, the global issue of finding cars at the right place on the right time. So that's basically the elevator pitch of any such business. And in fact, I would say that Uber has been pretty successful in achieving a great success and great valuation as well. Recently raised 12.5 billion at an implied valuation of 66 billion USD, making it, in fact, one of the fastest growing billion-dollar company in the world today. So how did Uber got it right? How did what decisions Uber took that made it successful is what we are going to cover today, and also we are going to cover some lessons for fellow entrepreneurs about how to build a similar business. So first of all, coming to how Uber got it right, going into a brief history of Uber, launched in 2010 in San Francisco, city of tech-savvy people, which is also important because they were able to connect and test with the people right away who were ready to use technology, which was new in the market. Sponsored tech events and provided free rides to attendees. Again, they targeted initially a lot of tech savvy and early adopters by targeting uh, worldwide audience through events where people who are already friendly to tech, who are tech savvy, go in and they were able to target them. The first drivers on the platform though came through cold calling. That's a very interesting story that has been doing rounds about how Uber was able to get their first drivers through cold calling, and then early adopters who used Uber became advocates for Uber by spreading word of mouth on blogs, social media, and every other way possible. And also Uber was able to set up itself as one that was able to increase jobs for a lot of people, and that they also got support from the government and other third parties as well, which helped them further maneuver the market and further able to establish themselves. So, as mentioned on the last slide, how we can basically summarize is that Uber's growth engine has been it can be simplified into intense city by city launches, giving away free rides, creating a wow experience, then eventually, of course, taking up down the free rides, but increasing the word of mouth, and then eventually moving to more and more cities. And that is sort of a model that Uber has been able to replicate. And the first lesson that you can take away from this webinar is that for any marketplace to successfully launch, it's very important that the growth is planned in a phased wise manner, meeting one milestone at a time and making sure that the growth cycle is repeated in each area, geography, domain, whatever the cycle is being repeated. For e-commerce, it could be with products. So launching one product, then making people start using or buying products, then adding more products to the portfolio, one product at a time. So that's how Uber's growth engine has evolved during these years. Of course, Uber did a lot of experimentations, and that's one of the reasons Uber was able to get a lot of publicity and get a lot of wow experiences for their users. Like Uber experimented with on-demand Uber ice cream, on-demand Rose of Valentine's Day, on-demand barbecue in Texas. Uber Chopper was launched that gave ride to Hamptons, and the partnership with NFL Players Association to promote safe rides. So Uber always created opportunities to create a buzz, and that is again very important for any startup today, that they should have a plan to create a buzz. Virality, as we always mention in our past webinars as well, virality is not built in a day. virality is something that is inbuilt every day. So that's some takeaways again from the success of Uber. Now, I would like to take you briefly about the technology that Uber has been using. A lot of entrepreneurs come to us and ask us the question about, like what are the technologies that Uber uses that makes it tick. So I'm going to cover on that a bit today. So Uber channel, or and again any e-commerce channel, would usually depend on a simple workflow. Like in case of Uber, it's like request a cab, the matching happens, the ride is booked, and then payment and ratings takes place. So that's the simplest four-step algorithm of how a user uses Uber when they and their how their experience happens. The key partners, or the key I would say key parameters of success for Uber here are customers, drivers, payment processes, map API, and investors. So customers, because they are the ones who are initiating each ride, the drivers who are fulfilling these orders, the payment processes to make sure that payment happens smoothly, and the map API providers, because location is actually very important for Uber, and the investors who have been investing the money into Uber to be able to launch to new cities, invest in infrastructure, invest in capacity further and further. So I am going to take some major aspects of technology here, like geolocation. So Uber iOS application uses the core location framework to geolocate a user's device. Geolocation for the Android version of the Uber app is implemented using Google's location APIs. Pretty standard, yeah. The route is usually mapped with point-to-point directions using MapKit for iOS app and using Google Maps Android API version 2 for the Android maps. Notifications are implemented using Apple push notification, and for Google using the Google cloud messaging services in the Android app. The payments, Uber has partnered with Braintree to accept card payments. PayPal has bought Braintree in 2012 for 800 millions. So Uber has been using Braintree to accept card payments. And on the coding side, the real-time dispatch systems have been built using Node.js, and that is business logic has been built using Python, MySQL, and Mongo. Demand and supply predictions using Python, and the applications have been built using native development environment like Objective-C, which in fact I think must have been upgraded to Swift and Java for Android. So as you would see, the whole tech stack is pretty agile, pretty up to the mark, using the latest technologies, and has been built in a way that as many new modules can be added at a go with quicker time to market and with lesser dependency on each other. That's the sort of agility that Uber has been able to maintain throughout its architecture. The business model of Uber contains the following key activities like product development and management, marketing and customer acquisition, hiring drivers, managing driver payouts, and customer supports. So, if you are building any Uber kind of business, then these are the five major areas of work that have to get started in terms of operations, which is like product development, the customer acquisition, hiring drivers, managing payouts, and customer supports. How Uber has been able to give value proposition to each of these actors is what I'm going to cover here. Like for the drivers, Uber has been able to measure and work on managing the minimum waiting time. They have algorithms being created all the time to work on how the waiting time can be minimized. Lesser price than normal taxi fares is one of the key proposition for Uber. Cashless ride that they have been able to provide, and has in fact one of the reasons that Uber has been able to replicate its success into the third world countries where card payments are not so popular. And then customers can see the ETA and track the cab while on the go has been one of the major I would say points of moments of truth for Uber with the customer. For the drivers, Uber has been able to create additional source of income, flexible working schedule, and easy payment procedures. One of the very interesting read that I had recently about Uber is that Uber has been able to create a lot of entrepreneurs out of its network, where a lot of initial drivers have been able to, in fact, today been able to manage a whole fleet of taxis that they have put with Uber. So that's one of the sure short sign of success. If your business is able to create further businesses, then your business can has a model that certainly can succeed in the long term. So that's one of the value propositions for Uber for drivers. The cost structure has been basically built on technology infrastructure, the employee salaries, and the launch and marketing expenses. So these are the major chunks where the money goes in for Uber. Of course, the balance between those funds would keep on changing. The ratio between them will keep on changing because initially, if you're launching the product, your technological infrastructure would in fact take up to 95% of the cost, which eventually comes down, and the marketing and expense cost increases. Again, one of the key points that I would like to point out here for fellow entrepreneurs is that always follow a 30-70 rule, where for the first 6 months when you're launching a service, your 70% of expense goes into technology, while 30% would go into marketing. But once you've launched, do not keep on investing much into technology unless you have checked out or you've tested the market. But during this all time, probably invest 70% into the marketing and 30% into the technology. The revenue structure for Uber has been car rides per kilometer miles basis, surge pricing, although frowned upon, but still it works for Uber, and the variants that they have created for as various pricing points for different passengers. So if one is looking forward to build Uber, then these are some of the features that one has to ponder if you are a startup and uh, low on budget, then probably these are the 5 to 6 features that I mentioned on the left hand that are required for any successful launch, which requires smooth registration process, the initial sign up of any user, real-time tracking, auto payments, driver profile and ratings, accept and reject requests, analytics and payment tracking. Apart from this, of course, as your platform would evolve, you could provide functionalities for chat, for saving favorite addresses, for language support as you move into new geographies, additional payment gateways, advanced bookings, referral codes to add more to virality. So this is how a quick feature list can be divided between what are the must-haves for any Uber kind of business should have, and then what are the additional features that can also act as a differentiator for any Uber-like business. So here I'm going to cover for the next 5 to 6 slides. I'm going to cover some of the FAQs that we mostly receive, like how much does an application like Uber cost? So answer depends, of course, again on the kind of features you're looking for, but it also depends on the business model, what are the features you're looking at, the platform considered for development, whether it's iOS or Android or both, and how much you are building on the analytics side of it. But to give you an idea, I believe I've worked on Uber-like applications starting from a range of 20,000 going up to 100,000 as well. So to keep a median, I would offer maybe a 50,000 kind of quote to build a Uber-like application. Again, it all depends on granularity. Costs can go up and come down. It all depends on exactly the kind of features, drill down analytics that you are looking for. Which platform should I choose to build a taxi application? So again, it depends on geography. Like if you're looking for Americas, you are looking probably for iOS launch, and if you're looking more on the side of Asia, then probably you could go with Android phones. How does the development process work? Of course, it has to go through a proper planning phase involving an analysis and wireframes. Here we also again would recommend that virality has to be built in during the initial analysis phase, and any entrepreneur has to really think through why this marketplace or this Uber kind application can still get a place in the market, because the unicorns are already there, the competition is really tough. So the differentiators, the virality has to be built in. Once those things are sorted out, then the process moves towards UX design, then the development, testing, and deployment. So this is how a typical cycle for any Uber-like application would take place. Although the various stages could be edited a bit here or there, depending on the overall marketing strategy and the time to market that the entrepreneur is looking at. And most important question, what are the opportunities for startups still when Uber and Ola and Hello have already been in dominant positions for market? So here are some of the differentiators that any new entrepreneur can look into about how they can create a differentiator when they are launching a similar business. Uber, of course, and Ola, of course, have been reducing waiting time all the while. But if a technology product can be built with which actually reduces waiting time to further optimized positions, then there's an opportunity that any new platform can thrive upon, especially in cities, in bigger cities where the value of time is quite high and people are really open to pay a premium on when it saves time for them. So that's one of the key areas that any entrepreneur should focus on. Then another area I would suggest is availability for users to choose drivers, which currently does not happen. All the current platforms are usually recommending drivers, but I have not seen any interface where a lot of drivers could just come up with their ratings and people could actually choose. Of course, it's a balance between the waiting time and the drivers available, but something that can act as a balance between the two can be a successful um, solution as well. Then cheaper surge rates, as I mentioned, surge rates are something people throughout the world would frown upon because there have been cases where Uber can even charge you up to 4 to 5 times of what you had expected. So surge rates is something that all the taxi-based applications currently depend upon uh, for getting paid and for making profits. But this is also something where innovation can happen, and if one can build a business that does not require surge pricing and still be profitable, can of course be profitable. Then another area that can be targeted by any entrepreneur is more transparency in users' data handling, because currently it all becomes pretty much a black box for users about how their data is being used and how their data is being accessed. Although there have been claims from all the companies that the data is safe, but there always has been counterclaims about how data has been played around with. So that's one of the key areas which can be solved and can create value for the users. Then another application I was able to think about is about reservation functionality within the application, where if user is able to uh, reserve the cab in advance and make it more like Airbnb kind of interface as well, while still managing again the waiting times. It can also be a proposition that someone can work upon. And then safety. Although Uber and Hello and Lyft have all been able to take the safety of a passenger to another next level, the harassment with local taxi drivers has stopped altogether. But still there have been cases throughout the world that have been happening where Uber drivers or any Ola driver have been found uh, like irritating any passenger, I would say. So that's something that these companies of course take seriously, but if there could be new business that could position itself to be a lot more safer, can of course be very useful as well. I'll give you an example. I recently came across an application that basically targets in a niche area of taking only nightclubbers and only people at night, and make sure that whenever you are out of a drink and you are out of your consciousness, it will make sure that you reach your destination in a safe way. So something like that, playing on a niche, can be one of the strategies that new startups can use. So that's all something I would like to cover today about how to build a Uber-like successful application. Of course, you can get in touch with us, and if you need any help, anytime you feel that you would like to discuss any idea that you have, please feel free to reach out. Here are the details how you can reach out to me. You can email me or you can call me anytime. I'm always open to discuss and I'm always open for coffee. Thank you and have a good day.